The numbers are disturbing. More than 100 Minnesota pedestrians are killed over a 2-year span.
Another 2,000 were injured, and tonight the Fox 9 investigators are taking a deep look at what needs to happen to slow down this trend. Here's Jeff Ballion.
It was a beautiful day for a walk. Then, in an instant,
We're just trying to figure out who's at fault.
one life was over. Another will never be the same.
I was doing all the right things in that moment. I waited for my walk sign, looked both ways, started walking.
Danielle Selblatt didn't see the threat until the very last second.
I can remember the sound of my body hitting his car.
Her body flew onto the hood, then rolled off to the pavement. She landed on the back of her head.
My life is different, and it's gonna be different. I'll never get Maggie back.
Maggie, the family dog, died in that crosswalk. Selblatt has a permanent traumatic brain injury. She can no longer smell or taste things. That's been especially hard for this new mom.
I have never smelt my son.
In Minnesota, 102 pedestrians were killed between 2016 and 17. The most deadly 2-year period in almost 20 years. The number of injuries continues to rise year to year.
So Josh, you're going to be our driver.
In the next few minutes, we'll examine the dynamics behind this disturbing trend with some eye-popping experiments. We'll show you why safety experts believe current speed limits are part of the problem, and how our choice of what we drive can make a difference too. But first, the human element.
I'm going to have you drive along this roadway.
This is a research lab at the University of Minnesota.
Do everything that you can to avoid these crashes.
Nicole Morris is a scientist who studies driver behavior with this state-of-the-art driving simulator.
Whoa.
4 volunteers are being tested to see how they react when facing sudden obstacles like a bicyclist darting into traffic.
Hope he's okay.
I don't think so.
Each one is driving the same urban course,
Oh.
but at a different speed. One at 40, another 35, and a couple at 25.
That just totally took me off guard, and it you could kind of feel the bump of hitting him too, so that was really scary to me.
Every one of the test drivers hit at least one of the obstacles.
Very realistic, my goodness.
The greater their speed,
How little reaction time you really do have.
the more likely they were to have a collision.
Our speeds are too high. Even the speed limit is too high for us to be able to make sure that pedestrians aren't killed in crashes.
Foot and bike traffic is on the rise in our communities, and so is the problem of distracted driving. That's a dangerous combo. Safety experts say changing the speed limit in urban areas from 30 to 25 miles an hour would save lives and reduce injuries.
People think 30 miles an hour isn't much. This should show them that it is.
To see what a difference speed can make, we've come to the Minnesota Highway Safety and Research Center at St. Cloud State. At 25 miles an hour, our crash dummy is catapulted a good
80 feet.
after impact. Now, we know it's not the same weight as a real person, so the physics are different, but you get the idea. Now we're going to add another 10 miles an hour to the collision speed. At 35, our crash dummy sails higher and much farther.
.3 feet.
Here's what's most telling about what you just saw. Safety experts say a person hit at 35 miles per hour is 3 times as likely to be killed than at 25 miles an hour.
Chances of surviving that are going to be slim, I think.
The type of vehicle involved also makes a difference. Studies show pedestrians are more likely to die if they get hit by an SUV than a car.
The impact of those larger SUVs and trucks are going to put more trauma to a pedestrian's body higher up, closer to their torso and head, than you would in a normal sedan, where that impact is likely going to strike closer to their legs.
Let's take another look at the dynamics of an SUV hitting our crash dummy.
If that was a real person, boy, they'd have some pretty significant injuries.
In an effort to make streets safer for pedestrians, many cities, including New York, Boston, and Seattle, have lowered speed limits in urban areas. Both Minneapolis and St. Paul want to do the same, but they need legislative approval to go from the current state-mandated 30 miles an hour in residential areas to 25. Our neighboring states all have 25 as the standard.
I had a really hard time just crossing streets in general for a long time.
Danielle Solblad missed 13 weeks of work after being hit in a crosswalk a few years ago. The traumatic brain injury she suffered robbed her of her sense of smell and taste. Yet she's grateful the car that ran into her wasn't going faster, or she might not be here today.
These are accidents, but they can be prevented if you're just slow down and pay attention.
Speed really makes a difference in these crashes. According to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, a pedestrian is 74% more likely to be killed if hit at 30 miles an hour versus 25. And there's a bill pending at the legislature right now which would give cities the authority to lower the speed limit below 30, something they can't do under current Minnesota law.
And it's exactly why cities such as St. Paul have stepped up enforcement. They started doing that last summer, and I'm thinking particularly around the History Center, around Xcel Energy Center, around the Capitol.
You've got a lot of people.
You got a lot of people. A lot of people. No one slows down.
Right. And the other thing they've found is they've done these enforcement actions, but they've also noticed that they need to change the design of roadways. And they said they've discovered they need to make them narrower, because as drivers get in more narrow space, they naturally slow down and tend to be more cautious.
That's interesting.
So you'll see as cities redesign their roadways, they're going to be a little tighter, especially around those intersections where pedestrians cross.
Interesting.
I will not soon forget the image of the crash test dummy on that test course. I mean, that was jarring.
Yeah, 25 versus 35,
Yeah.
and 35 we don't think of as that fast anyway. And then when you see the difference between them, it is pretty telling.
Dramatic difference. All right, Jeff Ballion, thanks so much. Appreciate it.